enjoy any sport or everyday life activity for a longer period of time on a higher level without getting tired, and sign up for a longer and healthier life. This all you can get if you practice regularly endurance type of exercises. Stay with me in this video and I will show you the classical methods, and I will talk about one not so well-known method, how to boost your endurance or stamina. Hi, my name is Mihály Sáfrán. I came from Hungary. For more than 20 years I was a professional athlete in the canoe sport. We had 8-10 training sessions in a week, and most of them were focused to boost the endurance level in a general or in a sport-specific way. So I reached the third class level in this endurance type of sport, and if we translate it to running, for example, that time I was able to run the so-called Cooper test, which is a 12-minute continuous running test. I was able to perform 3,520 meters. We also had a treadmill laboratory test when they checked my VO2 max unit maximal oxygen uptake. It was 67. If these numbers tell you something, put it in the right place. By the way, I was writing my university thesis on the subject of this treadmill running and experiments around this. Here I attach two graphs, one about the Cooper test and the other about the VO2 max values. You may want to pause the video and feel free to analyze the numbers. After the competitive sport, for 4 or 5 years, I did almost zero endurance type of training. I was focusing more on the strength development and movement skill practice. And in the last few years I started running again, but only 1 or 2 times maximum in a week. But even with this minimal running, I am able to run this Cooper test a little bit above 3,000 meters, or my calculated VO2 max is around 57, 58. I regularly test my fitness and endurance level in a smaller local OCR, obstacle course racing events, where usually I finish in the top 10, and once I was even winning a race in the 6-kilometer distance. Before we go any further, what is endurance? In short and simplified, it's our body's resistance to fatigue for a prolonged time of exertion. To fulfill the needs of the endurance, there are multiple organs and metabolic processes going on in the body, mainly the function of the heart, the lungs, and the circulatory system, but also in the metabolic way, the enzymes and the mitochondria. Mitochondria is the tiny cell organelle who is responsible for energy production. And there are different types of endurance. You can categorize them. Like in the time and distance, there are long-term endurance, like a marathon or ultra running, middle distance endurance, like running 800 or 1,500 meters. Or we can talk about short-term endurance, like a 400-meter sprint. We can talk about also speed endurance or strength endurance, which are more detailed topic maybe for another video. And also we can separate the endurance depending on the utilization of the oxygen. So we have aerobic endurance and anaerobic endurance. It means the aerobic endurance, we use the mitochondria for producing energy from the carbohydrates and fats, and also from the oxygen from the air. And in the anaerobic activities, which are more high intensity exercises, we use more glucose, sugar, with the glycolysis instead of the mitochondria. In this video I talk mainly about the aerobic based endurance. I would like to mention as well that The endurance can be specific for a certain sport activity, type of movement. For example, I was a world class level in the canoe movement, but it doesn't mean I was world class level in running or cycling. Maybe a better than average level, but I had no chance to compete with pro runners or cyclists. What kind of movements can help to boost your endurance? Usually they are these cyclical movements like walking, hiking, running, cycling, swimming, rowing. Which one do you prefer? But also the strength training can be helpful for a certain level, the endurance. Think in this case about the circuit training with a lighter, moderate intensity. Okay, what are the classical endurance development methods? Usually we can say the endurance type of sports are monotonous, for many people boring activities. But if you see how many possibilities there are to develop the endurance, so from now on you can't say it's boring. Of course, it always depends on your current fitness level and what are your goals. For beginners, it's totally okay if they just go for daily walking, 30 minutes at least, or they go for longer hikes on the weekend. We can also boost endurance without leaving home, sitting in the sofa without doing any sports. It's with breathing exercises. I don't go into details now, but it can be also an effective method to improve the function of the lungs and the circulatory system. Of course, up to a certain level, so you won't be a world champion marathon runner sitting in the sofa doing breathing exercises. It's also a very good beginner method if you mix the walking and the jogging or moderate intensity running, like running 1 minute and then walking 1 minute, running 1 minute, walking 1 minute, or you can set up different time periods as well and keep doing it for 20, 30 minutes or even 1 hour. And after it's coming the popular method, the continuous long distance, long period of time running for half hour, 1 hour, or even more. It's also a very good method to boost the endurance. Just make sure you gradually increase the time or distance on a weekly basis, maybe 5-10%, to let the joints and ligaments adapt to the new type of exercise. In this longer time or distance type of endurance activity, it's important to not go with too high intensity, so keep it light or moderate, where you can even talk with your partner for a few minutes if it would be necessary. A fun way of endurance training is the so-called fartlek method, where you play with the tempo and the intensity, like in a 1 hour run, here and there, improvisatively you run faster, slower, and then we can talk about more advanced, higher intensity methods. First, it's better to be able to run at least half hour continuously, and then you can include this type of trainings in your weekly program. First is the popular interval training methods, where you run faster, a few minutes and then rest, a few minutes and then repeat for a couple of times. Or it's also called tempo run, lactate threshold run, where you run near to your race intensity, close to your anaerobic threshold. It's a very high intensity, so you cannot do it for half hour, 1 hour. Better to split into a few minutes intervals and then rest a few minutes and then repeat again. A very nice mixed aerobic and anaerobic development endurance method is the so-called sprint intervals, where you have very short 10, 20, 30 second high intensity sprints, and then you rest for a few minutes and then repeat. Or a little bit similar is the popular Tabata method, where you have 20-second high intensity work, 10-second rest, cycle 8 times, so it's around 4 minutes, one block. It's also not recommended for complete beginners, but it can be later a very useful and time efficient method to maintain or even develop further the endurance. After all these methods, there are alternative ways to improve the endurance, like if you pick exercises from the strongman competitions, like a sled pulling, pushing, or carrying a yoke or a heavy weight, farmer's walk, for a longer period of time, you can kill 2 birds with 1 stone. You can also gain some strength and at the same time strength, endurance and basic endurance as well. Or like I told before, you can make a circuit training from various strength exercises, where you spend 20 to 60 seconds in one place and rest 20-30 seconds and then go on the next one, and build 4, 5, 6 exercises in a circuit and complete 4, 5 circuits in total. This method will build some muscle as well and also boost the endurance for up to a certain level. Without leaving home or in any place, you can train for endurance with the jumping ropes. At the same time, you improve your coordination and also your springs, so you can be faster as well. Or you can practice the jumping jacks for a longer period of time, or burpees. They are also good home training, beginner, intermediate methods. In the fitness, I represent a generalist way of training, so the endurance is just one slice of the cake. So I think strength training is also important, even for endurance athletes, to make your joint ligaments stronger and your core muscles, spinal erectors stronger. Then your posture will not collapse in the second part of the training or the race. And the proper way of strength training can also improve flexibility, mobility, and have many other benefits. Okay, and what is the secret, not so well-known method to boost stamina, endurance? What I mentioned in the beginning of the video. So this method is based around the function of the mitochondria. Mitochondria is the energy-producing cell organelle. We have thousands of them in each muscle cell. For any endurance type of activity, from the low to moderate intensity, or for the trained people even the high intensity, this mitochondria is fueling your muscles, burning carbohydrates and fats with the help of the oxygen from the air. And also one adaptation result of the lot of endurance training, that you have more mitochondria and the enzymes around are functioning more efficiently. So from here you already have a new solution to boost your endurance. Of course, it works up to a certain level. If you want high level of performance in a competition or a specific sport, you also have to practice and train for this specific sport. But for general fitness level and for longevity, focusing on our lifestyle to boost the mitochondrial function, it can help. I was writing many articles on my blog. I was writing even books, and you can find a few videos here on my channel, also in English, how we can boost the function of the mitochondria. In short, you pay attention the sleep-wake cycle, circadian rhythm. Watch the sunrise, get plenty of sunlight during the day, and try to limit and block the blue lights in the night, and have a great sleep. This will improve alone your mitochondrial function. Pay attention to diet, eat local, seasonal, natural food sources most of the time. And between sunrise and sunset, Also, you can do many breathing exercises and learn the correct way of breathing through the nose, in and out. Also, the popular ice swimming, cold practices can help to boost the function of the mitochondria. So if someone is going too much against the natural laws, how our body is supposed to work, then you can immediately improve if you throw away a few bricks from your backpack, and your body works more efficiently if you pay attention to this sleep-wake cycle, eat a more natural diet. How does my endurance training look like? As I mentioned before, as a professional athlete, we were training 8-10 times in a week for mainly endurance-based trainings, and this way I could reach a world-class level in one particular sport and a good level in other similar endurance type of activities like running or swimming. At that time I was not paying so much attention for this mitochondrial method because I had no clue about the whole topic. Of course, I was trying to sleep early and eating clean more or less, but even the clean meant different that time than right now. I had no clue about the importance of sunrise, sunbathing, or blocking the artificial blue lights in the night. And in the last few years, I guess I have still a good level of endurance with super minimal training, because one reason of this mitochondria friendly lifestyle. Right now, when I do the video in this last 1 year, I was doing only one endurance type of training session in a week, and even this was just 30-40 minutes with all included. Usually I was splitting it into low to moderate and even high intensity intervals for a 30-60 second or a few minutes long, and between 30-second rest periods, and you can mix it many different way. Like one example, 4 minutes running in a moderate 70% effort level, and then I rest 30 seconds, and then I run 4 times 30 seconds on a high intensity, around 90% effort, and 30-second rest between, and then I repeat the whole cycle again, starting with a 4-minute interval. I call it mixed interval because I train each zone of the endurance. I run in the base, low intensity, and I also run in the high intensity anaerobic endurance zone. This is what you can do if you train only once in a week. Okay, a few general tips how to train for endurance. Of course, it always depends how much time do you have. You could even do endurance type of training every day if you want, but I also recommend to do strength training or flexibility training, so at the end you won't have time doing it every day. I always like to say that one is always much better than doing nothing, so even with one training session per week you can maintain and even develop a little bit your endurance level. Sign up for a longer, healthier life. This one training session can be a long, continuous training session, or you can make a interval training out of it in the beginning of the session, make the more intense parts, the second part the lower intensity parts, or use a mixed method, which I mentioned before in my training. If you have 2, 3, 4 trainings for endurance in a week, then of course you can have more choices. I recommend to have one higher intensity focused training and one lower intensity, longer time focused trainings. Like in every area of sport, also in endurance, if you want to reach higher levels and improve your performance, it takes time, and you need to be consistent week by week, month by month, and show up on the trainings every week. If you want to know more about fitness and training topics or the mitochondrial function, diet, circadian rhythm, I recommend you to read my blog. I was writing many articles, I wrote books, or you can also find a few videos in my channel. Or if you want to go faster and saving time for years of researching or trial, error, self-experimenting, then contact me for an online consultation or online coaching, and let's work together on your goals for a few months. Thanks for being here today. I hope you got a general overview about the endurance, how and why it's important. From the latest scientific studies, we can see that a high level of endurance, good level of cardiovascular system or mitochondrial system, they are all connected to lower risk of mortality in many cases and longevity. So this is one important reason to include also endurance type of activity, at least weekly basis. If you enjoyed the video, then hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, share it with your friends, and see you in the next one.